Most people go their entire lives without ever asking the question, am I truly meant to succeed? Not in the casual sense, not in the dreamy way we sometimes think about success while drifting off to sleep or watching someone else live it. I mean, asking in the quiet of your own mind, in the stillness of early morning before the world rushes in, when you're most honest with yourself, are you built for it? Can you handle the weight of real success? And if you were to be given the map, would you follow it without deviation, without hesitation, without excuse? You see, the answer to whether or not you're meant to succeed is not hidden in your circumstances, nor buried in some distant future. It's already present. It reveals itself in how you respond to this message, in how you process what I'm about to tell you. Because success leaves clues, and the mind that is ready to receive those clues shows itself right away through willingness, attention, and above all through responsibility. That's the dividing line. The person meant for success is the one who decides here and now to stop waiting and start creating. You'll know if you're meant to succeed after this, not because of some motivational surge or emotional high, but because something in you wakes up. It hears the truth and recognizes it. It accepts the challenge, not because it's easy, but because it's yours to take. The first truth you must grasp is that success is not bestowed, it is constructed, brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day. It doesn't arrive like a package in the mail, it emerges from within. It is the outward reflection of an inward commitment. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That means if you're moving deliberately toward a clearly defined goal, you are already successful. And if you're not, if you're drifting, postponing, blaming, or waiting, you are choosing, whether consciously or unconsciously, not to succeed. There is no neutral ground. You are either building your future or surrendering it. Now let me ask you, how have you been spending your mental currency? Every day you spend your mind. You invest your thoughts, your time, your attention. Are you aware of where it's going? Do your thoughts nourish the direction of your dreams, or do they distract and decay your potential? The individual who is meant to succeed understands this. The mind is a garden. You will either plant seeds intentionally, or weeds will grow by default. And weeds don't ask permission. They arrive, they multiply, and before long they dominate. But here's the good news. You are the gardener. And today, yes, this very moment, you can choose to tear out what no longer serves and begin anew. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Let's go even deeper. The individual meant to succeed accepts one crucial reality. They are the cause of their results. Not the economy, not their upbringing, not luck. Themselves. This is not harsh. This is power. You see, if someone else were the cause of your life, then you'd be at their mercy. But you are not. You are the captain. The direction of the ship is determined not by the wind, but by the set of the sail. And who sets the sail? You do. Every time you think a thought, take an action, or make a decision, you are steering, you are shaping, you are declaring, this is who I am, this is what I believe I deserve. The question is not whether the wind will blow, it always does. The question is whether you will adjust your sail. Another marker of those meant for success is that they develop a relationship with discipline, not as punishment, but as love, self-respect, devotion to a higher standard. Anyone can perform when they feel like it. The successful act whether they feel like it or not, because they understand something that most never realize. Your future is not built on your moods, it's built on your habits. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. And when that becomes second nature, when the automatic response is progress, not retreat, then you will know you are meant to succeed. Not by what you feel in the moment, but by the results that follow you over time. There's another test, and it is this. How do you respond to failure? Not to minor inconvenience, but real setbacks, moments when life says no. The average person folds, detours, or blames. The one meant for success steps back, studies the failure, and returns stronger. Because they understand that failure is not a wall, it is a mirror. It shows you where the weakness is, and instead of turning away from it, they use it. They learn, they refine, they adapt. They press forward not despite failure, but because of it. In fact, every great success you admire is built on the back of 100 small failures that no one else had the stomach to endure. So if you failed and you still want to grow, you are exactly where you need to be. Write this down if you're serious. Success is not something you hope for. It is something you decide on. Right now, you can begin to direct your mind, your time, and your energy towards something worthy. You don't need permission. You don't need the perfect plan. You need one clear decision followed by immediate motion. Even if it's a small step, because small steps taken consistently become momentum, and momentum turns goals into outcomes. The truth is, every success story begins the same way, with a single moment of clarity. A moment when someone, just like you, decided to take full ownership of their life. Not partial ownership, not when it's convenient, full. You'll know you're meant to succeed when you stop waiting for signs and start being the sign. So let me leave you with this. You already know. Deep down, you've always known. You wouldn't have listened this far if you weren't meant to hear it. You wouldn't be drawn to this message if it wasn't calling something dormant in you to rise. The mind that seeks this truth is the mind that is ready to act on it. And those who act, who make a decision, write it down, pursue it relentlessly, those are the few who separate from the many. Not by chance, not by accident, but by choice. You'll know if you're meant to succeed after this, not because someone told you, but because you chose to become the kind of person who makes it inevitable. Most people believe success is a matter of talent, timing, or external opportunity. But those who are truly meant to succeed know something very different. They know that success is not given to those with the loudest voices or the most polished resumes. It belongs to those with quiet resolve, with internal conviction, with a vision they carry in their hearts long before anyone else can see it. These individuals understand that every outcome begins with intention, not wishful thinking, not vague desire, but deep, deliberate, written down intention. If you're meant to succeed, you will already feel a shift inside when I say this. The moment you define what you want with clarity, the gears of the universe begin to move, not magically, but mechanically. Success is a system, and clarity is the lever that moves the system in your favor. When you become clear, you become magnetic. You stop scattering your energy across 100 directions, and instead focus it like a beam. The world responds to focused energy. Now let me tell you what clarity looks like. It's not just having goals, it's knowing what you want in such precise detail that you could describe it without hesitation. It's being able to write it down in a single sentence. It's seeing your success in your mind's eye as if it has already happened. Take out a notepad and write this down. Vague goals produce vague results. Crystal clear goals produce direction, action, and outcomes. The one who is meant to succeed stops settling for blurry wishes and starts writing specific targets. I want to be successful is not a goal. I will earn $100,000 this year by solving this problem in this market with this service. The mind thrives on precision, and when the subconscious mind receives a direct command from a conscious mind that knows exactly what it wants, it begins its work, and it will not rest until it closes the gap between vision and reality. That is how the mind works. That is how you succeed. But clarity alone is not enough. It must be joined by belief, and not the shallow belief that flickers in the morning and fades by night. I mean deep, unwavering belief, the kind that acts in alignment with the outcome before the outcome shows up. The kind that speaks, thinks, and walks in the direction of the vision before there's any evidence it will succeed. That is the test of belief. Can you behave like the person who has already succeeded? Can you wake up early, work with discipline, act with purpose, even when there's no applause, no reward, no immediate result? Because that's where most people fail. They wait for evidence before committing. But those meant for success understand the evidence comes after the behavior, not before. They move forward in faith, not fantasy. They persist when it would be easier to give up. They hold the image of success so vividly that their body and mind begin to obey it as if it were already real. That is belief in motion. That is power. I want to give you a picture. Imagine two men. One has a strong desire but no plan. He wakes up excited, but by midday his energy fades. He says the right things but rarely follows through. He depends on motivation. He reacts to life. The other man wakes up with purpose. His day is pre-written. His goal is in front of him like a North Star. He doesn't rely on motivation because he's built momentum. He doesn't react. He initiates. One lives by emotion, the other by discipline. Which one are you? More importantly, which one are you becoming? Because success is not a personality type, it's a pattern of behavior. And behavior can be changed, strengthened, and installed like a system. You are not fixed. You are programmable. But you must be willing to reprogram. You'll know you're meant to succeed when you stop asking if it's possible and start asking how it's done. When your focus shifts from doubt to instruction, when you stop seeking reassurance and start building systems. Success is not found in emotion, it's found in execution. The high performers of the world, the builders, the leaders, the ones you admire, what separates them is not their circumstances but their structure. They have routines, standards, calendars, environments, and habits that lock in the outcome. They don't leave success to chance. They reverse engineer it. If you want to know if you're meant to succeed, look at how you structure your day. Does it reflect your goal, or does it reflect your fears, your excuses, your distractions? Show me your calendar and I'll show you your future. Take this seriously. Success is predictable. Just as planting corn produces corn and not oranges, planting thoughts of focus, discipline, and clarity will produce a life of achievement. But you must understand this universal law. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. You can write down all the goals you want, but if your daily actions are out of alignment with those goals, you will remain stuck. Your external world is a mirror of your internal world. If you want to change what you see around you, you must first change what you accept within you. This is not poetic, this is mechanical. Life reflects you. The world responds to your standards, not your hopes. And the one meant for success stops negotiating with mediocrity. He raises his standards. He says no more, and he lives in accordance with the man or woman he intends to become. You're still listening. That tells me something. It tells me this isn't entertainment for you. This is a turning point, and that's why I want to press this into your awareness right now. The moment you decide that nothing will pull you off course, not emotion, not resistance, not discomfort, you activate the power of identity. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start, who gets up when they fall, who chooses the disciplined path over the easy one, not because it's glamorous, but because it's right. And that decision is magnetic. It reshapes your posture, your tone, your behavior, your relationships. It commands respect from yourself first and from the world second. You begin to walk differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. The certainty of someone who knows who they are. If you've ever wondered whether you're meant to succeed, let me answer it for you now. Yes, if you are willing to make success your identity, not a hope, not a wish, not an outcome you try for, but an identity you live from. This means you speak differently, you choose differently, you rise earlier, you think with discipline, you act without drama, you work even when it's silent, and you rest when the job is done, not when you feel like it. This mindset, this way of living, is what separates the very few from the many. It's not about who's louder or more talented. It's about who is more aligned, internally and externally, with their desired future. When the inside matches the outside, success becomes inevitable. Let me close this part by saying, you don't need a sign. This is it. This is your confirmation. If this message is resonating, it's because you already have the seed inside you. Your job now is to cultivate it. Water it daily, feed it with vision, protect it with discipline, and grow it with faith. Because if you do, there will come a day, not far from now, when the world will see the harvest of what you planted today. And they'll call you lucky, they'll say you were born for it, but you'll know better. You weren't lucky. You were clear, you were disciplined, you were deliberate, and above all, you were ready. There's a question I want you to sit with as we begin this next part. What am I becoming by the way I live each day? Not what do I hope to become, not what do I dream of doing, but what am I actually becoming through my consistent actions, thoughts, and standards? This question exposes everything. It bypasses the facade of motivation and gets straight to the mechanics of your future. Because the truth is, you're not heading toward a destiny. You're building it brick by brick through repetition, through daily choices, through patterns. If those patterns are aligned with clarity, discipline, and responsibility, you will become someone worthy of the results you desire. But if your patterns are loose, passive, distracted, or reactive, your life will drift. And drifting is the silent killer of potential. A ship doesn't crash because of the ocean. It crashes because it lost its course. And a person doesn't fail because of the world. He fails because he stopped steering his own life. The person meant for success eliminates drift. They do not wake up and see how they feel. They have pre-decided how they will think, behave, and execute, regardless of mood or circumstance. This is not robotic. This is powerful. It's how world-class lives are built. If you want to know what separates the great from the average, it's this: emotional maturity. Great men and women have trained themselves to act from commitment, not from feeling. They've installed rituals, structures, non-negotiables. They've turned key behaviors into automatic responses. Not because it's easy, not because it always feels good, but because they understand the cost of inconsistency. Inconsistency is expensive. It robs you of momentum, of confidence, of opportunity. And success, above all, is reserved for those who can sustain their momentum through the seasons of life, hot or cold, rain or shine, applause or silence. Now think of your mind as a factory. Every day it receives raw materials, your thoughts. Some are delivered intentionally, others sneak in through environment, media, or memory. but all of them are used to produce your future. If you do not guard the gate of that factory, your mind becomes a junkyard, filled with doubt, distraction, complaint, and confusion. But if you become a wise manager, deliberately choosing what thoughts are allowed in, you turn your mind into an engine, a creative, disciplined, wealth-generating engine. The mind, when trained, becomes your most loyal servant. It begins to create results in your behavior before you even realize it. But you must feed it the right inputs, and that starts with language. If you speak in limitation, your mind will obey. If you speak in purpose, your mind will obey. Language is the programming code, and repetition is the installation process. That's why affirmations, visualization, and daily declarations work. Not because they're mystical, but because they are mechanical. Let me be even more direct. You are not your past. You are not your circumstances. You are not even your thoughts. You are the one who chooses them. You are the architect. And once you understand this, you are free. Free to rise, free to rebuild, free to recreate your entire life. But you must choose it. Not once, daily, repeatedly. You must become a disciple of your own higher self. And like any disciple, you train, you discipline, you observe, you evolve. No one is born with the habits of greatness. They are installed by choice, by repetition, by refusal to settle. That means no one is excluded from success. The door is open, but it is narrow, and it does not swing wide for those who try half-heartedly. It opens only to those who knock daily, who return with intention, who sharpen themselves until they fit the shape required to walk through. There's another test I want to give you, the test of time. Ask yourself, if I keep living the way I am now, where will I be in 5 years? This question is not designed to inspire, it's designed to expose. Because most people are in motion without direction. They're busy without building. And busyness, if not aligned with vision, is just elegant procrastination. The man meant for success pauses often to recalibrate. He looks at his habits and says, are these leading me forward, or are they wasting my time? He looks at his circle and says, are these people lifting my standard or lowering it? He looks at his inputs, what he watches, reads, listens to, and says, is this reinforcing my discipline or feeding my distraction? This kind of reflection is rare, but it is required, because time is the only currency you never get back. And the man who knows where his time goes, knows where his life is going. Let's speak now about standards. Your standards are the invisible guardrails of your life. They determine what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you believe you deserve. You don't get what you want, you get what your standards allow. And if your standards are low, your results will match. The individual meant to succeed raises his standards with quiet conviction. He doesn't announce it, he simply decides, I don't do that anymore. I don't think like that anymore. I don't associate with that anymore. And from that internal shift, the external begins to change. New opportunities appear, new habits stick, new relationships emerge. Why? Because the universe, life, or whatever you want to call it, responds to consistency of identity. And when your identity shifts, your reality does too. Not because of magic, but because of alignment. Write this down. The world does not give you what you deserve. It gives you what you demand through behavior, not words. That means you teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you respect your time, others will too. If you walk with clarity, others will follow. If you speak with integrity, others will listen. But if you shrink, tolerate, hesitate, or negotiate with your own purpose, the world will treat you accordingly. You must be bold, not loud, but certain. Not aggressive, but unshakable. Because the energy you carry is louder than the words you speak. And the one meant for success carries the energy of quiet determination. The energy of someone who has already made the decision and now simply walks it out, one day at a time. Finally, I want to give you something practical, something you can begin today. Create what I call the non-negotiable hour. 1 hour per day, locked in, distraction-free, dedicated solely to becoming the person you intend to be. It can be used to study, to plan, to execute, to reflect, to strategize, but it must be sacred, untouchable, uncompromised, because one focused hour a day over time will create a compound effect that no motivation can match. This is how professionals train. This is how leaders rise. And this is how you separate from the noise of the world and build something meaningful, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. There's a turning point in every life, and it usually doesn't come with a spotlight or applause. It comes quietly, in a moment of choice. A moment where the individual looks around and realizes that everything they've experienced, good, bad, unfair, fortunate, has prepared them for the decision they now face, to rise or to remain the same. This moment is not emotional, it's not dramatic, it's internal. And if you're meant to succeed, this moment will find you sooner or later. It will whisper, not shout, and it will say, no one is coming to save you, it's on you now. That's the invitation, and those who are meant to succeed accept it without complaint, without blaming others, without demanding perfect conditions, because they've realized something most people never do. Your conditions don't create your life, your decisions do. And the most important decision you can make is to take full and total ownership of everything that happens from this moment forward. Ownership is not about guilt, it's about power. It's the power to respond, to redirect, to reshape, to rebuild. The average person waits. They wait for clarity, for motivation, for support. They wait for a sign. But the one meant to succeed acts. They generate clarity through motion. They generate confidence through commitment. And they understand a truth most people never learn. Waiting weakens will. The longer you wait, the weaker your resolve becomes. The longer you wait, the more permission you give to excuses. Success doesn't belong to the most prepared. It belongs to the most responsible. The man who steps forward, ready or not. The woman who moves before she feels like it. Because they know, readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision backed by action. Now let's look at how responsibility reshapes everything. The responsible individual stops complaining, not because they don't see the problem, but because they've decided to be the solution. Complaining is the language of the powerless. Responsibility is the language of builders. Those meant to succeed have no time for gossip, for blame, for drama, or distraction. They are obsessed with forward motion, with solving, with growing, with creating, because they've realized that energy is finite, and what you give it to either multiplies your vision or drains it, and so they focus, not just on the goal, but on the identity that produces the goal. They think, how does the version of me who already succeeded think, speak, move, train, act, and then they become that, not one day, today, right now. Let me tell you why this works. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and repeated instruction. When you act like the version of yourself who has already succeeded, your subconscious begins to conform. It builds new neural pathways. It rearranges perception. It starts scanning the environment for evidence that matches the identity you've stepped into. This is not mystical. This is scientific. It's how the brain works, and it's how every great transformation begins. Not by waiting for results, but by choosing to embody the result in advance. This is why vision boards, affirmations, and visualization work when done correctly. They're not fantasy, they're programming tools, and when paired with action, they install a new operating system in the mind, a system that naturally rejects anything that contradicts the goal. That's how transformation becomes permanent, identity-based, not outcome-based. And this is where most people get it wrong. They try to change their life from the outside in. They chase tactics, hacks, shortcuts. They download apps, buy courses, set goals, and then wonder why nothing sticks. It doesn't stick because the internal identity hasn't changed. You can't install new results on an outdated self-image. The person meant to succeed understands this. They work from the inside out. They change their self-talk, their language, their environment, their standards. They begin to carry themselves differently, not arrogantly, but intentionally. And they hold the line, day after day, until one day the outer world begins to match the inner one. That's when momentum takes over. That's when people start asking, what changed? And you won't have to explain it. They'll feel it. Now, I want to challenge you directly. Look at your environment. Does it reflect your future or your past? Look at the people around you. Are they building you or blocking you? Look at how you spend your time. Is it aligned with who you want to be or who you've been? These are hard questions, but they're necessary. Because environment is stronger than willpower. You cannot rise surrounded by energy that pulls you down. You cannot become disciplined in a chaotic space. You cannot grow while consuming the same inputs that built your limitations. The one meant for success becomes radical about their environment. They curate it, they upgrade it, they protect it like a garden. Not because they're fragile, but because their vision is too important to let weeds grow unattended. And let me remind you, you are allowed to outgrow people, places, and patterns. You are allowed to walk away from anything that no longer aligns with your future. You are not obligated to remain the version of yourself that others are comfortable with. In fact, if you're serious about success, you must be willing to disappoint others in order to stay loyal to your purpose. That is not selfish. That is alignment, and alignment is what makes excellence sustainable. When your thoughts, words, actions, and environment all reflect the same vision, you become unstoppable. You move through life with fewer internal contradictions. Your energy no longer leaks in 100 directions. It concentrates, it sharpens, it becomes a laser, So if you're still wondering whether you're meant to succeed, ask yourself this: am I willing to let go of what no longer serves my vision? Am I willing to trade comfort for clarity, distraction for discipline, familiarity for freedom? If the answer is yes, even with fear in your voice, even with hesitation in your heart, then yes, you are meant to succeed because you've recognized the cost and you've decided to pay it. And that decision alone separates you from the majority, from the talkers, the dreamers, the dabblers. You've become one of the builders, the quiet few who rise early, work late, and live deliberately, not for applause but for alignment, not for validation but for victory. Success has a rhythm, and those who are meant for it learn to move in step with that rhythm. It's not a sprint, it's not a chaotic flurry of activity, it's not hustle for the sake of appearances, it's precision, it's focus, it's sustained, intelligent effort. And once you learn the rhythm of success, life becomes simpler, not easier, but clearer. The distractions fade, the noise quiets. You stop wasting time trying to impress others and start impressing your future self. This rhythm begins when you realize that results follow structure, not emotion. That progress is measured not in flashes of brilliance, but in hours of consistency. The successful don't wait for alignment, they create it. They show up daily, execute consistently, and trust that the compounding effect of their action will bear fruit. Not today, not tomorrow, but inevitably. Because they're not chasing speed, they're chasing permanence. One of the most powerful truths you'll ever learn is this: your habits predict your future more accurately than your hopes. Anyone can feel inspired. Anyone can daydream. But what do you do when no one is watching? That's the real indicator. The individual meant for success becomes obsessed with their process. They study it, refine it, audit it, not in a frantic way, but with a craftsman's eye. They know that greatness is not in the event, it's in the repetition. The way a sculptor shapes stone, little by little, stroke by stroke, day after day. You don't see the result immediately, but suddenly, one day, what was once a block becomes a form, then a face, then a masterpiece, and everyone wonders how it happened. It happened by design, by repetition, by habit, the kind of habit that is boring to most but sacred to the few. Now let me tell you something that will separate you permanently from the average. Fall in love with the boring. The average chase excitement. They want novelty. They want stimulation. The successful fall in love with execution. They don't need to be entertained. They need to be effective. That means doing the reps, showing up on time, honoring their word, and sticking to the plan even when it's not glamorous. Especially when it's not glamorous. Because they've realized that magic happens in the mundane, in the reps no one else wants to do, in the hours no one else wants to put in the details no one else wants to care about. The extraordinary is hidden in the ordinary, done with relentless consistency and deliberate focus. And if you can understand that, if you can train your mind to embrace repetition instead of resisting it, then you've passed one of the most important tests of all. Let's talk about discomfort. The individual meant for success does not fear discomfort. They welcome it, not because it feels good, but because they understand what it means. Discomfort is not danger, it is data. It tells you where growth is happening. It shows you where you are expanding. And most importantly, it exposes where your limits used to be. Every time you feel discomfort and lean in instead of backing off, you break a boundary. You build a new normal. And over time, what once overwhelmed you becomes effortless. That's the real transformation. Not just doing more, but becoming more. Discomfort is the forge. It's where identity is reshaped. And when you see it that way, you stop avoiding the hard days. You start using them. You start chasing them. Because you know that every moment of discomfort you survive becomes a tool in your arsenal, a brick in your foundation, a signal that you're growing beyond what you were. Let me remind you of something simple and powerful. The basics work. The basics always work. Clarity, consistency, discipline, reflection, gratitude, integrity. These are not soft words, these are powerful forces. And while the world is obsessed with shortcuts and complexity, the individual meant to succeed returns to the fundamentals again and again. They master the basics until they become second nature. They don't complicate the process, they clarify it. That's why they progress faster. Not because they move faster, but because they move with fewer distractions. Fewer detours, fewer self-imposed limitations. Success is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters consistently, excellently, and without excuse. Take out your notepad and write this down. Momentum is more valuable than motivation. You won't feel motivated every day, but if you build momentum, you won't need to. Momentum carries you. It makes the next step easier, the next decision simpler, the next challenge less intimidating. And the way to build momentum is to start right now, not tomorrow. Not when you feel better, now. Even a small win matters. Even 5 minutes of focused work can start the flywheel. And once it's moving, your job is to protect it, feed it. Don't let breaks become backslides. Don't let lapses become patterns. The one meant for success knows that their biggest enemy is not failure, it's losing momentum. So they guard it like treasure. And because of that, they keep rising, even when others stall. Now I want to address the silent fear many carry, the fear of starting over. The fear that if they stumble, if they regress, if they fall short, they've wasted their progress. But let me tell you something, nothing is wasted. No effort, no lesson, no hour of struggle. Every moment has built something in you. And starting over is not failure, it's refinement. It means you've learned. You've recalibrated. You're returning wiser, stronger, sharper. The one meant for success is not afraid to begin again. They don't carry shame, they carry data. They extract wisdom from their missteps and use it to improve their next move. That is the mindset that wins long term. Not the one who never falls, but the one who rises better each time. So if you're still here, if you're still listening, you are already different. You're not here for entertainment. You're here for change, for clarity, for conviction. And that tells me one thing, you're meant to succeed. Not because of how you feel right now, but because of how you choose to act from here forward. You've seen the blueprint, you've felt the challenge, you've heard the standard. Now it's your move, because the future is not waiting. It's being written in the small decisions you make today. And if those decisions align with the identity you've been stepping into throughout this message, then the outcome is no longer a mystery. It's a matter of time. There is a quiet shift that happens in those who are truly meant to succeed. It's not a burst of emotion. It's not a rush of adrenaline. It's something deeper, something still. It's a moment of inner agreement, where a man or woman stops negotiating with mediocrity and simply decides, this is who I am now. No more delay, no more contradiction, no more living halfway. They no longer seek to be motivated, they choose to be aligned. And once that alignment occurs, everything begins to change. Not because the world becomes easier, but because they become stronger, more grounded, more disciplined. They stop trying to force outcomes and begin to embody principles. And principle, when lived consistently, becomes the most powerful form of leverage. It shapes identity, it filters decisions, it builds trust with others, and more importantly, with self. Those meant for success realize early that their life moves at the speed of their self-respect. When you respect yourself deeply, you refuse to betray your future with lazy decisions. You say no to things that don't align. You get serious about your rest, your nutrition, your inputs, your calendar, your associations, because every single one of those elements is either sharpening you or softening you. And you know soft is how you get forgotten. But sharp gets remembered. Sharp creates impact. Sharp slices through resistance. That sharpness doesn't come from genetics or luck. It comes from daily self-respect, from doing what you said you would do, from holding your posture even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching, because that's the real you. And the real you is either building momentum or making excuses. There is no middle ground. Let me speak to your potential for a moment. Not your achievements, not your resume, but the raw, untouched potential inside you. The kind of potential that keeps you up at night. The kind that whispers, you're made for more. That voice is not lying to you, but it is waiting for proof. Proof through action. Proof through consistency. You don't unlock potential through wishing. You unlock it through work, focused, deliberate, disciplined work. That means waking up when it's hard, saying no when it's tempting, moving forward when it's unclear. The man meant to succeed doesn't wait to feel like it. He shows up again and again until potential becomes proof. And once it becomes proof, the world starts to respond. New rooms open, new conversations begin. But it all started with internal proof. Proof that you are who you say you are. Now here's something most people never hear. You are allowed to choose a hard life on purpose. In fact, you must, not for suffering's sake, but for sharpening. The path of least resistance leads to mediocrity, but the path of chosen difficulty, that's the path of greatness. That's where resilience is built. That's where clarity is forged. That's where you meet your edge and move it forward. The individual meant to succeed does not seek comfort. They seek growth. And they understand that growth often feels like pain at first, but that pain is intelligent. It's instructional. It's revealing where your limits are and inviting you to surpass them. Every great life is born from the decision to face discomfort head-on, with courage and commitment, not avoidance or complaint. Take this in. Discipline is a form of self-love. It's not restriction, it's protection. It protects your future from your impulses. It shields your momentum from your moods. The disciplined don't live with less, they live with more. More peace, more energy, more direction, more confidence. They don't suffer under the weight of regret because they choose to carry the lighter weight of daily discipline. The individual meant to succeed understands this. They no longer see discipline as a chore. They see it as a privilege to have a standard, to have a vision, to have a life that reflects intention. While others wander, they walk straight. While others drift, they direct. And over time, that consistent direction turns into results so undeniable that even those who doubted begin to take notice. Let me ask you something powerful. What if you lived the next 90 days as if your future depended on it? What if you stripped away every excuse, every distraction, every misalignment, and for 90 days, you gave your all to the habits, systems, and vision you know are required for your next level? Not halfway, not conditionally, fully, with your whole being. Imagine the clarity, the momentum, the breakthroughs, the proof, because that's the kind of decision that collapses time. That's how you do in 3 months what most take 3 years to figure out. Not because the world changed, but because you did. This is how the individual meant to succeed moves. They don't dabble, they go all in. Not forever, but long enough to change the trajectory permanently. There's one more truth you need to hear today. You don't rise by talking about the mountain. You rise by climbing it. One step, then another, and if you slip, you don't sulk, you recalibrate. You anchor your footing and you keep climbing. Because the one meant to succeed has made peace with the process. They've divorced the idea of perfection and married the principle of progress. They've stopped idolizing talent and started honoring effort, because they've seen it happen. Effort beats talent when talent stops trying. And those who continue, who endure, who refine themselves as they rise, they're the ones who reach the summit. Not because they were lucky, not because they were chosen, but because they were consistent. So wherever you are right now, begin. Begin again. Begin with what you have. Begin with what you know. Begin even if you're unsure, because beginning is power, and if you do it with clarity, with discipline, and with identity, everything will change. Not overnight, not by accident, but inevitably, because you were meant to succeed. And the proof is not in how much you want it, it's in how much you're willing to align with it. Day after day, thought after thought, action after action. This is the path, and you're already on it. The individual meant to succeed eventually discovers the most overlooked truth of all. Success is not about arrival, it's about alignment. Alignment between your thoughts and your words, between your vision and your habits, between your values and your actions. You can have all the ambition in the world, but if your behavior contradicts your purpose, your life will feel heavy, fragmented, and off course. Alignment, on the other hand, brings momentum. It brings peace. It brings power. The successful aren't just disciplined, they are congruent. And that congruence is what gives them the inner authority to move with calm intensity, to walk into a room without needing to prove anything, to live without over-explaining, over-apologizing, or overcompensating. They simply are, because they've paid the price of alignment, and now they carry the reward, unshakable presence. Let's go deeper. The man or woman destined for success eventually makes one non-negotiable decision: to live in truth. That means no more pretending, no more denial, no more telling yourself stories that keep you small. The most dangerous lie is the one you tell yourself to stay comfortable. And comfort, while seductive, is the enemy of every great future. The moment you lie to yourself about your effort, your responsibility, your potential, you begin to rot from the inside out. But the person meant to succeed tells the truth, even when it stings, especially when it stings. They look in the mirror and say, "This is what I need to change." They don't deflect, they don't justify, they don't blame, they adjust. And because of that, life begins to reward them. Not because they're perfect, but because they're honest. And honesty is the soil where every real transformation begins. Write this down. The truth will cost you comfort, but it will buy you freedom. It will disrupt your current identity, but it will deliver your higher one. It will isolate you from the masses, but it will connect you to purpose. Every time you choose truth over illusion, you move closer to who you were born to be. And that version of you, the real you, is the one who attracts what others chase. Not because of image, but because of integrity. Not because of charm, but because of consistency. The world may not always reward the loudest, but it always rewards the clearest, and clarity is born from truth. So ask yourself now with full honesty, what have you been pretending not to know? What habit have you excused? What relationship have you tolerated? What pattern have you protected? The moment you answer these questions with boldness, your next chapter begins. Because self-deception may buy temporary relief, but self-respect is what buys long-term results. Another signal of those who are meant to succeed is that they become stewards of energy. They stop leaking energy into things that drain them. They stop investing emotional bandwidth in people who don't reciprocate, environments that don't inspire, or habits that don't produce returns. They understand that their energy is their greatest currency. And just like money, it must be budgeted with wisdom. If you give your energy to distraction, to fear, to gossip, to comparison, you're going bankrupt. But if you allocate that same energy to discipline, learning, creating, serving, you're compounding it. And with time, that compound effect becomes visible, it becomes measurable, it becomes magnetic. You begin to attract people, resources, and opportunities that match the frequency of your focus. Because the universe doesn't reward chaos, it rewards stewardship. And those who can manage energy with precision rise with velocity. Let me speak now to one of the most important skills you can ever develop: the ability to delay gratification. This is the master key of every long-term success. The ability to sacrifice now for what you want most. The ability to say not yet when the world is screaming right now. This isn't just about money. It's about identity, about choosing to build legacy instead of chasing validation. Every time you delay gratification, you're proving to your subconscious that your future matters, that you are in control, that you're not a slave to impulse, and that proof becomes identity. That identity becomes behavior, and that behavior becomes destiny. Most people fail not because they're incapable, but because they're impatient. They want harvest without planting, reward without discipline, outcome without process. But you, if you're meant to succeed, you must flip that pattern. You must train your mind to see sacrifice not as suffering, but as investment. And that brings us to the power of vision. The individual meant to succeed carries a vision so clear, so personal, so alive, that it cannot be outsourced, forgotten, or stolen. This vision is not just a picture of a better life. It's a contract, a vow, a responsibility. And when life gets hard, and it will, that vision becomes your anchor. It keeps you from quitting. It reminds you who you are. It protects you from temptation, laziness, and doubt. A man with no vision will always be swayed by circumstance. But a man with vision walks differently, talks differently, chooses differently, because he's seen where he's going. And when you know where you're going, everything not aligned becomes irrelevant. The noise fades, the options narrow, and the path becomes clear. Not easy, but clear. And clarity, once found, is the most valuable tool in the world. Let me be absolutely clear. If you've been listening this far, this message is for you. You are not here by accident. You didn't stumble into these words, you were ready to hear them. And what you do from this moment forward will determine everything. This is not motivation, this is instruction. You've been handed a blueprint, a series of timeless, proven principles. But blueprints don't build houses, action does. Clarity doesn't guarantee results, commitment does. Knowledge doesn't create change, execution does. And execution begins with one thing, a decision. A decision to become the kind of person who finishes what they start, who doesn't just dream but does, who doesn't just consume truth, but lives it. Because that person is rare, but that person is real, and you have the power to become them if you choose to.